What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Rivera Urban Homestead. It is Saturday, January 8th. The new year has begun, and we're going to kick it off with messing with containers. That's right. We are going to be planting in some containers. I'm going to show you the containers I use. And I just have a lot of empty containers around here, or pots or buckets, whatever you want to call them, that I want to incorporate them and start planting stuff. First thing I'm going to do is go to Lowe's. I need to grab a couple of little supplies, but we're also going to plant some herbs in these containers, put them on that table I have over in the front of the house. It's just going to be a container day. My raised beds are pretty full right now, so I have no room to plant in there. Oh, I do have one micro plot I'm going to be clearing out and planting more beets. My beets are getting shadowed out by the Dakan radish plants, so they're not really growing that good. So I'm going to get them planted on a different part of the raised bed, a different micro plot. That way they get more light and probably do better. So I'll be right back from Lowe's and we'll get started. Yeah, I'm sorry, it just never gets old, man. There's so many bees right now out here. I love this plant. Crazy. Molly, you hanging out with the rabbit. You hanging out with Lion. How you doing? Sillies. Alright, so anyway, I got back from Lowe's. I bought a couple of unexpected plants, so I'll show you those in a minute. I got some potting mix and some black cow manure so we can mix up a batch for the containers. So basically the basis of this video is just going to be planting in small spaces, right? You got little containers, you got little 5-gallon buckets. Anything you have to plant in, you can. So we're going to get out to the side of the house. We're going to pick out some containers that I have around here. I'll show you the plants I bought. We'll prep and get soil ready and get everything planted in. So let's do it. All right, so let's get over to the area we're going to be working with today. As you can see, the garden is looking amazing. I have to harvest some more lettuce and kale today or maybe tomorrow, but I've been getting plenty of that. I still have tons of tomatoes that are in the house that need to be eaten, so we're good on there. And of course the big bush with all the bees right here, and we are going to be working right behind it on this patio table. That's right. I'm sure most people have a patio table like this, the glass one that you put the umbrella in the middle. Well, we're going to be using it to grow food on. So this is what I got at Lowe's. Black cow manure, of course. I always add that. I got the Jungle Growth organic potting mix. I had some leftover peat moss. I got some bone meal and blood meal left over, and here are my plants. We got sweet mint, we got poblano, because I need some poblano peppers, a sweet basil, Italian oregano, curled parsley right here, that looks pretty. We got some cilantro in the back, and I got some Brussels sprout plants. I think there's like 4 plants in there, so we are gonna plant those in different areas and see what works best. Anyway, first thing we got to do is get the soils mixed up. Okay, so all I'm doing for the potting soil that we're going to use to plant is equal parts black cow with the potting mix, with the peat moss, and then I'll just throw in some homemade compost beans. I got some. So let me get the parts measured out. Okay, so that's pretty close. We got 1/3 of the potting mix, 1/3 of the black cow, 1/3 of peat moss. Now let's just mix it together. Now let me go get some homemade compost. Actually, I just remember I don't have any more homemade compost. We used it all. So I'm just going to add in the rest of the black cow bag. That'll be the extra compost. All right, that's looking good, man. That black cow will give it some nutrition. The potting mix makes it nice and airy. The peat moss holds and retains moisture. But now we're going to add a couple more elements. First one is bone meal. This is good for phosphorus. Just go ahead, throw in 2 handfuls of that. After that, we got the blood meal for some good nitrogen. 2 handfuls of that in there. Okay, for the sweet mint and the sweet basil, I'm just going to use these little, I don't know, 1 gallon, if that, pots. They have holes in them, so they'll be good to go for drainage. Let's just get them filled up and get them set in there. All right. Sweet basil. Kind of press it in there a little bit, get some more soil around it. And that should be good. And now we'll do the sweet mint. Alright, so after that last clip right there, my battery died on the phone, or on the camera, so I had it charging. I was sitting out here looking at Facebook, and I realized today is my dad's 30th anniversary of when he passed away. I haven't heard his voice in 30 years. I was only 16 when it happened. So that kind of threw me for a little loop. So we're going to stop videoing today. We'll finish planting everything tomorrow morning, but right now I'm just going to hang out, have a few beers, and probably watch the Broncos get their butts whooped against Kansas City. But go Broncos anyway, and love you, Dad, of course. You hear the parrots? Alright, good morning. Back on the side of the house. It's kind of windy out here, so hopefully you can hear me alright. Now, with the Brussels sprouts, we're going to put them in 5-gallon buckets, 1 per bucket. Now, I probably only have enough soil for 2 buckets, so we'll plant 2 for right now. So with my 5-gallon buckets, you can get them at Lowe's, you can get them at Walmart. They're pretty cheap. Just make sure they say food grade on them. You want to be able to have them in food grade growing containers. And at the bottom, I use 3/4 inch spade bit and just make some holes for drainage in the bucket. That's all. It's very simple. Now we'll just fill it up with the potting mix we made. Get that in there. Brussels sprouts like nice, rich, moist soil, so make sure you're keeping them wet. And they like full sun, so we're gonna put them out down by the lower part of the garden where they get the most sun. You plant them just as deep as they are in their little nursery trays. Don't plant them any deeper. Kind of pack it down a little. Here we go. Just pop one of these guys out of here. There it is, the Brussels sprout. I'm going to just set him right there. Nice. And I left plenty of lip to where we can just keep the water in there without it overflowing. There's one Brussels sprout. This one was definitely ready to come out of there. Them roots are really root bound. Just kind of rough them up a little bit, not too much. Okay, the little pepper plant, I'm not going to put them in a 5-gallon bucket just yet. It's still pretty small. I'm going to just use one of these, and then as it gets bigger, I can buy more soil to make more for the 5-gallon buckets. I just don't have enough right now, basically. So, we'll get him put in. Get him planted in there. I'm going to take the 2 little leaves off the bottom, pinch off the leaves at the bottom, and get him in there nice and deep. Alright, so he got planted. The peppers you can plant a little bit deeper. They will grow some more roots at the bottom of their stem. Not like tomatoes, but somewhat. Just a little bit deeper is okay. And there we go. Now we got the poblanos set up. We got 2 Brussels sprouts set up. Next thing I'm going to do is grab 1 more of those 5-gallon buckets. I may have enough soil for 1 more. I have this big green pot sitting here. I'm just gonna dump this stuff in there, just like that. Boop. And we can revitalize the old soils that I have. You know, we just add more nutrients to it, some more manure, some more compost, and we can reuse the soil. So when I'm done with my container soil, it normally goes into a bigger container, and then when I need it, I pull it out, reincorporate bone meal, blood meal, organic fertilizer, compost, and you can reuse it. And another thing, guys, if you don't have room, like you don't have a yard in a house that you can have a wheelbarrow, grab one of these things from Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever. It's just a cement mixer. It'll be over by all the blocks and the cement stuff. These things work great to mix your soil in, and you can put it away and store it fairly easy. All right, let's get one more bucket filled up here. Another tip is after you plant your containers, pick it up and feel it. This is dry weight, no water. So you can feel it and see how heavy it is, and then you can be able to gauge how dry they are just by kind of lifting them up. So of course I continued to water because that's what I do. I love watering. But anyway, I remember we have this big old tub sitting here that had the potatoes in it, which I did harvest a dinner's worth. So what I'm going to do is throw some bone meal, blood meal in there and throw another one of the Brussels sprouts in, because we just have those seedlings sitting there with no pots to put them in. So there's going to be another one. Another thing I need to do, guys, is broccoli leaves. I did a video back in the day, probably a few years ago, on how to cook broccoli leaves. That is my most viewed video with about 100,000 views so far. So yeah, I'll leave a link down at the bottom on how to cook broccoli leaves. It's very easy and tasty. I also stuck bamboo stakes in each one of them because these are going to get like 2 to 3 foot tall, and it gets windy out here come springtime, so we got the stakes in place now to where we can tie them up later when they need it. So there we go, guys. Some Brussels sprouts going, a poblano plant growing, another Brussels sprout over there. Got a few different herbs potted up. The other ones back there, I'm just going to leave them in those pots for now. They're still big enough in those pots. I think they'll be fine. And we still got to find a place for those 2 Brussels sprouts. But on one of those patio tables, I still have plenty of room for, golly, 6, 7 more little pots on that thing. So you can grow in a small space. Just use your creativity. And of course, look at my cucumber plant. It went from beautiful flowers, yada yada, to nothing again. I'm no good at cucumbers, guys. I was going to clean out that micro plot and put the Brussels sprouts in there, but my Dakan radish is just taking that southern sun and blocking that area. I really should have planted those on this side. That would have kept the other micro plot getting enough sun. Like there's beets down there. You can barely see them though because of all the Dakan radish leaves. See them down there? Let me move all this, see? There's some beets there, but they're not doing very well because they are in full shade with these plants. Definitely got bigger than I imagined. We'll definitely have to plant this bigger stuff on the north side of the raised bed, smaller stuff on the south.
Processor, and that's gonna break.
Oh yeah, that's a pile of garby right there. Short ribs cut flanken style. See the little bones in it? They're like thick pieces of bacon with bone. They're amazing. Alright, so the new year is upon us. We got some new stuff planted out there. Start using your containers, guys. Start growing some cool season stuff. I printed out these neat little things from the University of Florida Extension program. So it kind of gives you a little rundown of what to do per month or what you can do. Like in January it says bulbs, start planting winter bulbs so they bloom in the springtime. And also herbs, many different herbs now thrive in this cooler temperatures, including tarragon, dill, thyme, fennel, and any of the mints. So you could start growing them now in January. Vegetables, continue planting cool season vegetables. Beets, cabbage, turnips, lettuce, broccolis, stuff like that. Brussels sprouts, like we just did. And then it says things you could do like irrigation. Plants may need water if temperatures remain higher than normal, which they have been. We've still been pretty close to 80s every day, and with lack of rainfall. So I've been watering quite often. Your shrubs and trees, you can prune the non-spring flowering trees around this month. That way to get that nice form going that you want. And pests for shrubs and deciduous fruit trees to control scale on citrus trees. Apply horticultural oil on them now while they're dormant. Deadhead flowers, all your flower beds that have all dead stuff on them, deadhead them off to encourage the new blooms in the spring. Monitor the garden for insects. And that's about it, man. And that's about it for this. This is neat, just a neat little guide. So that was January. Keep planting your broccolis, your cabbages, your beets, your cool season stuff, lettuces. Mine's all flowing good. But anyway, when we got that poblano plant, it ain't going to get too cold for it, so it'll be fine. And now, as I showed you, I got all that garby meat. We're getting ready to put it in a Korean marinade. We're going to marinate that for a few hours. We got some friends coming over later. We're going to barbecue that real high. Get it nice and crispy but tender. Oh, that meat is so good. And then we're going to have a bunch of different Korean sides Christine's making. So that'll do it for this weekend, guys. You have a good one, and we will see you next week.